My space, your space. Your space, my space. Our space. One space love.
The One Space Love Show for the love of music, lifestyle, well-being and culture while caring for our planet. On this show, I will be chatting with musicians, artists and creative minds that are living life on purpose by doing what they love.
Our space. One space love. My space, your space. Your space, my space. Our space. One space love. One space love. One space love.
Welcome, Joss Jaffe, to OneSpaceLove. So good to finally catch up with you. I think we've been attempting to catch up for over a year now, I think. How are you going?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time that we saw each other. I think it was in Bondi Beach, 2017. Does that sound about right?
Oh, actually seeing each other, it came up on my memories. You came on Bondi Beach Radio around 2017 and we did some event together. I think it was at OneSpace HQ and in Bondi Beach. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great to see you. It's like no time has passed.
Yeah, I know. I was hosting you at my house. I remember we got to hang out. It was fun. And it does feel like that in the community, like no time passes. It's like, yeah.
Indeed. I miss Australia. I almost wish I could be interviewing you. I have so many questions for what it's like over there.
Oh, please throw in any questions. This is about us having a chat. So you are welcome to ask me anything about Australia and I will share my perception from lockdown here. So Joss, it's all about you today. So let's get into this juicy conversation I'm looking forward to have. And I do remember catching up with you on Bondi Beach Radio and there's so much, it's just so exciting, the music that keeps coming out of you and seeing how far you've come since then, you know, like it's beautiful to witness across the seas and land. I feel like I'm connected to you anyway, you know, even though we're not in the same country.
Absolutely.
I always start off, I start off OneSpaceLove by asking, could you finish the statement, I am, and just give a nice introduction to yourself? And it can be as, you know, as open-ended as you like.
I am. Well, I'll just be super honest and vulnerable and say what comes to me. I had a men's group meeting last night, and we were talking all about kind of our internal landscape. And one of the themes that came up, it almost was like a mantra, where the leader of the men's group said, let's all repeat to ourselves, I am worthy. I am worthy. And, you know, for anyone listening out there, maybe we can all just experience this together. What does it feel like to say, I am worthy? And I'll just tell you from my experience, when I said it last night, my whole body kind of changed. It kind of changed and I sort of opened up and it was really powerful. And, you know, we're kind of getting into like workshop consciousness here, but it's relevant, I think, to what we're all going through right now, you know, with this sort of pandemic reality where everything is upended and changed. And I've been finding that I have to just check in with myself like constantly, all the time, every day, multiple times a day, and just say, well, how am I feeling now? You know, because it's different than 5 minutes ago. It's like, how am I feeling now? And it's very surreal. I mean, the whole experience is super surreal, and all the different stages that we're all going through. But, you know, to come back to your question, right in this moment, I'm really happy. I'm happy to see your beautiful face and to be talking about this. And I'm really inspired by, you know, what everyone is doing. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of creation happening. I'm seeing a lot of new art. You know, musicians are creating a lot of new music. And, you know, I'm sure we'll talk more about this as we go on, but sort of the silver lining of this all is that we've had more time, you know, to just sort of be and to just sort of sit with all this. And as an artistic person, you know, often our first inclination is to create and like, how can I make something that reflects this time and speaks to this moment. And I found that to be super true for me. I mean, I've released more music in the last 18 months than I have in my whole career. I've released
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been amazing. And the collaborations with other artists, but again, it's not been without its challenges. I mean, I'm not going to, candy coat that. It's definitely been bizarre, and I miss connection.
Yeah, oh, me too.
I miss the way things were. Yeah. So,
yes. I mean, I think you just said there's a lot of depth in what you just shared there, because yes, it's like the yin and the yang. On one hand, it is an opportunity for us to be able to create, being creative souls. But there's an element of having to constantly check in with ourselves so that we have the ability to be in that alignment to create from that place of power, of unity, of connection within ourselves, within connection to the land, with the connection to the universe. And that is not easy at the moment. And that's what I find.
It's not. And I mean, not to get too deep into sort of like new age lexicon, as it were, but like,
go deep. I like deep.
But that's sort of the way it's been for me is like, I almost feel like there's this constant like deterioration of kind of my sort of focus and mental sphere and emotional sphere. And it's like, I've been constantly like bringing myself back to the present moment and just constantly breathing back into this moment. And, and sometimes just letting things fall apart. Like, this is kind of an intense thing to say, but just like let it all fall apart for however long a day or a week or whatever, and just rest. And, I mean, so it's just been very, unique kind of a thing. And it's hard to encapsulate it, in any sort of, way to describe it. But that's sort of what I've been feeling, and really getting in touch with emotions. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about emotions and posting about astrology and posting about, patterns and
Aquarius.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool is like this deep connection with emotion. We've sort of opened this space where we can just process a lot of stuff. And you've been seeing that, like, I'm here in the United States, and last year there was all this processing, around, all sorts of issues, social justice and, so many things. And collectively we were just like, okay, we can have these new experiences, and it's powerful, so I think it's definitely good to speak to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I can definitely relate to knowing when to stop. I think we were messaging over Instagram and just knowing I had to take 2 weeks off from editing the shows and interviewing, because I just actually had to rest. My body was like, you can't push anymore. And it's just, it's really that dance between, it comes up a lot for me at the moment, of the masculine and feminine within ourselves, and really getting to understand how that works. Because often as creative people, we can be quite masculine in getting the projects pushed, and especially being on the road and on tour, it's nonstop, go, go, go. And it's pushing your body to the limits. So there's no doubt that your body would be physically exhausted now that you're just stopping, isn't it? It's like,
Absolutely right. There's been one common thread, and I'm sure you've noticed this interviewing so many musicians, but every musician I talk to is just like, wow, what a unique thing to not have to tour, to not have to travel. And it's been, not everyone has had the same response to that. Like, I know some people that they've just freaked them out, and they need to have that experience. And other musicians have been like, this is great. Like a friend of ours, Dave Stringer, I'll mention him right now. I just had a birthday, and he was like, God, it's been 20 years of constant touring, and I finally had a year off. And he was like, this is great. His whole
he's enjoying his place and his relationship. And
So, and it's really unprecedented. I know people keep using that word unprecedented, but it truly is. I mean, everyone from, the most humblest coffee shop singer to like Rihanna has been off the road. Everyone is off the road,
Isn't that incredible? Like, if you thought this was going to happen, we wouldn't have been able to imagine it. Like, that it would affect every artist across the board, worldwide.
And to speak to some of more maybe the dark side of this whole music consciousness is there's a lot of to speak it, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of who's better than who, and I hope that we can rise above that, and a lot of artists do, but uniquely this experience was like everybody's off. So there was like no comparison. No one was like, well, who's doing what festival? It was like no one was doing anything.
And it's not genre based either.
Yeah, exactly.
It's across. So
that was unique, very unique.
Yeah. Let's go into a little bit now, sharing about your story, because how did you come to have these tools and practices and attitudes that you have today to get you through this, seeing the cup half full and seeing the silver lining in the experience? So music has it came with you quite young. You picked up an instrument quite young. Can you take me back to some of the memories of where music came in for you?
Sure. I love those questions. Thank you, Steph. Yeah, I remember it quite well. Actually, I was 9 years old, and my mom said to me, she said, you have to play a musical instrument. You can choose which one, but you have to do it, and we're going to basically force you to do it,
Yeah. Okay. I'm not usually getting that answer. I'm interested in that one.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And I had that choice. So I thought, what's the coolest instrument? I'm like, okay, electric guitar. I'm going to learn the electric guitar. Not even like acoustic guitar. It was like electric guitar, right? So I did. And they got me one. It was a super cheap one. And I immediately realized this is harder than I thought it was going to be. I remember that moment, being 9 years old. I'm like, oh gosh, this is not easy, and I had all these emotions. It was hard. I mean, it was really actually difficult. I remember my fingers would have those creases in it. And, sometimes one time they would even bleed, and just playing the strings and just getting that muscle memory. It was super hard. I remember that. And then it was so intense that I actually stopped. I said to my mom, like, I can't do this anymore. And she's like, you have to do it for 1 year. And then you can stop if you want. And so I'm like, okay. And then I made it through the year, and I'm like, we're stopping. And she's like, okay, you can stop. So I stopped. And but then a couple of years later, I went to this other school, and all the cool kids at the school I remember that I wanted to be friends with, they all played guitar. So all of a sudden I go to the closet and get out the guitar, and it came back. It all came back to me, and I started playing, and then I never looked back. It was like I had to go through that period of struggle and then pause and then return. And then it was there. And from there, I played so many different instruments, but it was always the same. It was that pattern was similar. You have to go into it really hard and work really hard. And then you need to take a step back from it. It doesn't necessarily have to be for years. It could just be even for a day, but then, and so that sort of, that vibration, right, was what allowed me to learn to play these different instruments. But, in a nutshell, I think it's a mix of joy, feeling that joy and incredible feeling of creativity, also blended with hard work. I mean, every musician will say, you just got to put in the time to practice. There's no really other way to do that, So those two things, and yeah.
And so so your mother, is she a big influence in your journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She was a yoga teacher, kind of before it was cool.
I had that. I was feeling that as you were talking, because I was going to go into yoga next. So, okay. So she had that as well. Okay.
Yeah. She was a yoga teacher. She went through a whole different chronology. She started really kind of power yoga and stuff like that. And then like vinyasa ashtanga, and then kind of changed into more of like a flow style. And then at the end, right before she stopped teaching, she was doing yin, like super yin restorative. So she had this kind of interesting arc, of teaching these different styles. Yeah. Yeah. So she was an influence on me for sure, is, doing yoga and being around, yoga teachers and people, this is like before Instagram, right? So
yeah. I mean, those that are first tuning into you, I mean, I know from knowing you, I mean, your music went on such a path and then, had a circle round back to that yoga mantra world. So was music something that you were able to pursue young, or is it something you went into something else first as a career and then you came back to music?
Yeah, those are really good questions. I had my first band in high school, and there's a link on SoundCloud somewhere.
Okay.
We were kind of like pretending to be U2. Yeah. This was like early 90s. So it's pretty goofy. But yes, I've always been interested in sort of making my own music. The reality of making money as a musician I was really cognizant of that. And so for a lot of my life, I didn't pursue music only. Van Morrison had this album, Born to Sing, No Plan B, right? And I always kind of wished that I had just sort of done that, like throw all caution to the wind and just like, do that. But I had a whole kind of progression of kind of stages where sometimes I would tour full time, but I also went to grad school and, did other work and took some time when I had, like full-time job that was totally unrelated to music. But the common thread is that I kept working on music projects all the time.
Yes.
And I released albums even when I wasn't touring full time. It's always been like part of me. And I think that's actually good. Everyone has to find their balance, And so then in 2017, I did do music full time. And so it's been about 3.5, 4 years now of just like only music. And so that's been really, really amazing. It's been quite a journey.
And what was one of the jobs that was, most memorable to you? Was either really good memory or really like, oh, really, I did that? Because I've had some interesting answers on this one.
Yeah, I love those stories. I've had a lot of different jobs. I mean, I worked at a music store, so that was related to music. That was fun. I was there for 3 years. We sold Indian instruments. We sold like sitars and tablas and harmoniums. And so that was actually pretty fun. I got to meet a lot of cool people. And it kept the music close, right? So even though I wasn't playing music, I was like connected to music, And then I spent 6 years as an engineer for like an electrical engineer for a solar company. So that was like no relation to music, nothing at all.
Yeah.
But it was very heady. It was kind of brainy work, And I do like that kind of work. And also it was in the green economy. So we were, I like to think we were doing something good for the environment. And, so I thought it was worthwhile, but ultimately I needed to, just do my thing that was in alignment with my, my dharma, my path,
Your calling.
Yeah, my calling. Yeah.
One of the key points for you was being introduced to the instruments from India. Where did this start to happen in relation to 2017 when you took on music? And I think Jayutal was part of that as well. Was he back in the early connection? Yeah.
So Jayutal, his family and my family have actually known each other for a really long time. Like his sister and my mom were friends. Yeah.
I met him
when I was quite young. I met him when I was quite young. And he was actually my first kirtan concert. I remember I was like in high school and it was a huge influence on me. Jayutal was an enormous influence on me. And I later grew up and I was his roadie. So I like supported him in his band. And then I also eventually started playing with him, tabla and bass. And so we had a long period of time where we did that. And then finally, the last thing that happened was he came and sang on 2 of my songs, so we had this whole full circle kind of journey. But yeah, so Indian music is really important to me. It was one of the first kind of musical genres that I that I started learning. And so there's sort of two ways to describe it. One is that in our house, my parents would like listen to chanting and mantra music. They had a meditation teacher. So, they were like hippie people,
Yeah. And your parents still together? Yeah. So it was like a stable, your parents are together.
Well, they were until I was, I think, 18 or something like that. Okay. Yeah, they separated.
So you had like a stable foundation there.
As a child, yes, I did indeed. Yep. Yeah, thank goodness. And so then like that was cool to have that kind of background. And then, but then I actually like got into it deeper, and I met a man from Nepal who was a tabla maestro. He played the tabla drums from India. And I was young, I was in high school, and I'm like, this is cool. This music is really cool. And it's just like lit me up in a whole new way. And
where did you meet him? Let me just pause. Yeah. Where did you meet him? Because that's an important moment that you paid attention to.
Yeah. So I grew up in Santa Barbara in California, and he was a faculty member at UCSB, and I just met him, through the community, and I just was interested in this style of music, and he started teaching me, and then he's like, you're pretty good, Joss. You could really do this, and so he invited me to come to Nepal and learn from him, and so I did, and I just graduated high school. Like I literally, and I'm just like got on a plane and flew to Nepal, like right out of high school, yeah. And so I was there 3 months, and, he taught me like really hard, like, waking up at 6 a.m. It was like a traditional education for 3 months, and it kind of got me started in this whole other world, which was amazing. I can't remember, what was I, 17, 18 years old. So it started.
I was just going to say, I mean, having my eldest 19 and then a 14-year-old and two 8-year-olds, I'm amazed at like you finish school and you end up in Nepal for 3 months. Most boys are, off dating and drinking, and really interesting,
I've always sort of walked to the beat of my own drum, as it were.
I feel that. Yeah. Would you say that you've had an awareness of the path that was being laid out? Like there was some awareness within you that was able to pay attention to catch these moments?
I mean, yes and no. I remember very clearly being on the plane to go to Nepal. I was 17 years old. I was on this plane. And I'm like, a part of me was like, what am I doing? Like, what? Yeah. And then I had this epiphany. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm a tabla player now. Like I kind of embodied that identity. I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is real. I guess I'm a tabla player now. And it was a cool moment because, so much about our identity is like self-created. We're like, I'm this now, or I'm that now. And some of it is subconscious. Sometimes we don't choose those identities. It's like, well, this has sort of happened to me, and that can be positive or negative, but in that moment, that was empowering to me. And I think art is that way, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to do this now. And you just sort of like take it into your own hands and you create something. I find it to be very empowering.
Yeah, completely. And so there was also some voice, you had another mentor that was around voice training. Was that on a similar path?
Yeah, I mean, I've had lots of teachers over my life. Yeah. I think I have to mention Ali Akbar Khan, who is a master instrumentalist and vocalist from India. He had a whole school. So he influenced me quite a bit. I was with him for many years. And he taught me singing. But yeah, I've had a lot of different teachers over the years. I've been very fortunate. Yeah.
And so now you've worked with Jai Uttal. Tell us, when did you start incorporating the world music and reggae? Like, where did reggae music come into it?
Well, so yeah, I grew up in a beach town, I'm a surfer, and I grew up there, and I don't know if it's still popular. I don't know what kids are listening to right now, but like, I don't have my finger on the pulse or whatever, but when I was in high school, like a lot of people listened to reggae. It was very popular, both the original style from Jamaica, but also like reggae that, California kids were making. Like Sublime came out then. There was in the 90s, like No Doubt was there, So like this was like a thing, ska music, reggae. I mean, that was popular when I was a kid and in my world. And so it just
Toots and the Mayhas, is it?
Yeah, Toots. Yeah.
I think I saw them play in US.
So, Lee Perry just passed away.
Yep.
So, more power to Lee Perry. And it's just that music, the chick, the guitar doing that.
Yeah.
And I also play the tabla. And like as a drummer, I kind of felt those two musics like they could fit together, right? They actually had a potential to fit together with the reggae, like Bob Marley's kind of playing it almost like a drum on the guitar. And the offbeat and the tabla is going so I just had this kind of moment. I'm like, I could like put these two musics together. And just to be clear, I wasn't the first person to do this. Even Lee Perry, who just passed away, he had a song I just posted on social media of him singing Hare Krishna. This is wild. I mean, this Jamaican musician is singing this Indian chant, this sacred Indian chant. So, music is sort of meant to be blended, in my personal opinion. I think music is meant to be blended, and you have to do it in a respectful way. You have to do it in a authentic way. But like it's all possible, and I love it when that happens. When musicians from different cultures don't even speak the same language, right? They can get together and start playing. Because drumming is universal. There might be a different feel in India than there is in Brazil, than there is in, different parts of the world, the Middle East. And every little vibe is a little bit different. The way that the swing will be different, the movement will be different. But ultimately, we're all working with that pulse. That pulse is there. And then with melody, like, again, there's lots of, regional differences to the way people will approach melody. But ultimately, it's melody. The octave is the octave. The fifth is the fifth. And, so it's a universal language is what I'm getting at. And it's
completely,
it's meant to be shared. Yeah.
And was with the reggae, was it something that you explored individually, and then once you learned the tabla, you were able to get this aha moment to blend it all? So, because I remember there was some other there was other paths in the music that you played more reggae, wasn't it? And you did quite well with that.
Yeah, I played in reggae bands. I played bass in a reggae band. I played guitar.
Yes.
And I mean, I
remember that.
When I was a kid, I didn't have this idea that I was going to like merge genres.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I would do that. I think I really liked learning about music. I'd had this experience where I went to India and learned how to play tabla, which is the drums from India. And it was just so illuminating. I'm like, wow, I can actually learn this, And then, when I would have different opportunities to learn different styles of music, I would just sort of absorb it like a sponge. I'm like, I want to try the conga, I want to try the djembe, try these different instruments. And, you can't play everything. You're not going to be a master at everything, but you can sort of give it a go, and see what resonates with you. And so that was the process.
There's a lot of instruments you play. I mean, there was a track recently where you played all the instruments yourself.
It's fun to do. Like Prince. Prince did that, apparently. Yeah. He would play every instrument on his own. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Joss, Prince, I like it. Tell us about the instrument in your room at the moment.
Yeah, well, let's see if it's still in tune. So this is called Ngoni.
Cool. Oh, it's not the kora. No,
it's
Ngoni.
Similar to a kora. It's not a kora, but it's like a kora. It's called Ngoni, Ngoni. Beautiful. Let's see if it's still in tune here. It's pretty good. Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that's the Ngoni, and it has two two sets of strings, kind of like a harp. And interestingly, this ngoni is made out of...
from a tabla.
Yes, exactly. So it's pretty unique. My friend Biko made this, and
Wow.
And he felt the resonance to sell it to me because of my background with tabla. So it's a pretty unique instrument.
It's such a beautiful instrument.
Yeah. Thank you.
And well, from that, actually, can we share like some of the people that you have collaborated with in the industry? I mean, you're immersed in it over there, being where you are, but let's, maybe highlight some of those people. We've mentioned Dave Stringer, we've mentioned Jayu Tal. I mean, I've done a workshop with Dave Stringer about the Radiant Sutras, and that's Lauren. So maybe just let's share with us into your world on some of how the moments when you got to meet some of these people, and maybe some of your highlight moments.
Oh, that's great. That's a beautiful question. I've done a lot of work with sort of chant artists. That's a huge connection that I've had. So Dave and Jai, also, Donna DeLore, who's became famous for singing with Madonna. And also in her own right, she has amazing music and very beautiful spiritual music, devotional chant music. And it's always really expertly produced. She's just got an incredible voice. I've gotten to play with her a couple times. So it's always really trippy, like to play with someone who's played with these legendary mega stars, and you can see that in the way that she plays, her vocal technique is just so good. And so, I always learn. I try and learn from people and, have fun and create, but it's also an opportunity to learn, to be humble and to see what somebody else can do better than you, and that's always fun for me and they bring a different thing out of you, when someone does their thing, and you try and match that and kind of meet them somewhere, you have to rise to the occasion and do that. And so I always find that to be fun. I think probably the most legendary musician I've ever worked with is named Michael Rose. He's a reggae singer and the lead singer of Black Uhuru. So he's like a total legend. I was really shocked when he was like open to do a couple songs with me. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That's epic. Yeah. So we have 2 songs together, which I really like. Promises came out last year, which is like a straight ahead reggae song. And then Elohim came out in 2015, and that sings in Hebrew. So we sing together in Hebrew. Yeah. It's like this cosmic divine chant with this big reggae beat. So that one was really fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the most famous person. I'm really excited to announce something that's coming out in the fall. I'm working with an artist named Jim Kimo West, and he is an amazing Hawaiian slack key guitar player. And he just won the Grammy last year for his Hawaiian slack key playing. And he is notable for, he spent 40 years playing with Weird Al Yankovic as his lead guitar player. Yeah. So he's a rock star in his own right. And we have this beautiful album coming out this year.
Okay. And how did that come about while you're in lockdown and,
So that came out from this instrument. I was posting videos of this instrument and Jim Kimo was like, that sounds so good. He's like, let's do something together. I'm like, yeah, let's definitely do something together.
So he was following you?
Yeah,
he was
we're
following
friends
you
on social media. I'm part of all these music groups and stuff like that. Okay. And so we just, we clicked and connected and always just stay open. You got to always stay open you never know when the next connection will come.
So true. And that's coming now full circle about to this opportunities and possibilities in what we're experiencing and being able to have the awareness to check in with yourself to be able to catch them still. Mm-hmm. Because it sounds like you have been really busy creating these new tracks that have come out. Reverie just came out recently. You've got Want You, Aloha. So to be able to bring them out and still collaborate with artists, I guess we'll talk about those songs. What are the tools that you find have been helping you to to keep that creative flow. And, you know, as we know that there's moments when we lapse out of that, but then to get yourself back into that creative flow.
Gosh, there's a lot there. We could have a whole workshop on just that question. And, you know, you bring up a lot of good points. I mean, one, I think when you're talking about just keeping the creative flow going, I think you're implying artist block. You know, how do you overcome artist block? And, you know, my strategy for that, I have had severe artist block at times over the years, is you just have to keep creating. And sometimes it's like a river in a stream. Like if there's a rock or a blockage, like sometimes you need to just go somewhere else, like just put down the thing that's blocking you and make something else. So that's my strategy there, is just keep working. If something is blocking you, you know, just keep working on something else. And so that's really important. And, you know, as far as the creativity of the song, I really love that song Reverie really a lot. And, you know, it has kind of a mystical quality to it. It has a mystical quality to it. And I love the way it's produced by this artist named DJ Taz Rashid, who's very popular in kind of the yoga dance world of, you know, Wanderlust and these big yoga festivals. So he's just a great producer. So he brought that kind of pop, modern kind of vibe to it, that modern sensibility to it. But at the root, these are, you know, singer-songwriter songs. Want You has a reggae feel. Want You's been kind of gotten picked up by the reggae channels, which is cool. It's actually doing really well on Spotify right now. So thank you. And I really resonate with that. Where did those lyrics come from for you? Like, what were you drawing from? Was it a life experience? Or absolutely.
Just collectively,
I mean, at the root of it, that song is like, so the lyric says, I'm drawing a blank here. You can't decide if you want, but you're going to miss a good thing when it's gone. Right. So that's the end of the chorus there. And basically at the root of it, it's sort of like an unrequited love kind of a song. It's like, you just love this person so much. You want them so bad, but it's, you know, they don't feel the same way. So there's this angst there, and how do you process that? And so that's what that song is about. And it's interesting because, you know, coming out of a place of mantra and doing like, you know, yoga music and meditation music, like writing a reggae love song is a little different, you know, and so, you know, I'll be frank, some of my audience like didn't want to go there. Like they're like, I like this other stuff. And so, but I think it's good as an artist to just be fearless. You know, I'll bring up Lee Perry again. And like, he was just fearless to just like recreate himself and do a whole new genre and a whole new song and a whole new theme. It's like, I don't want to be limited or contained in what I feel like I can create. And maybe it's not going to land with everyone. You know, art is subjective, right? But to me, I felt really strongly about these songs and giving these songs to people, you know, particularly right now, you know, have something to listen to.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, that comes up with a few interviews about being true, knowing your worthiness. And we come back to that in the beginning. I am worthy. I think in this time we've really learned, like, I don't want to say you don't give a shit, but really to just step into that and to do what we're doing because it feels right, you know, because it feels like what is coming through. And rather than having that moment of questioning it, we don't have time for questioning it anymore. It's just got to come out, you know, and it will land where it's going to land because it's coming through you, you know. And I resonated to that song. It definitely hit home to me and went to my heart. And even like Reverie, I think that, you know, I don't know, what I took from the visual aspect of the film clip is, at the moment, you know, we are quite closed into quite a routine, mechanical way. But if we're able to take glimpses of the mysticism of life and, you know, the light and nature and find that within ourselves and express that, that's where we find that joy and reverie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wish, well, we recorded this. You got to send me that clip because you literally just encapsulated exactly what I was going with for the song. Like, light is really important in that song. Really, it's really important. Even the lyrics talk about when the sun sinks down at the end of the day and the wind through the trees. And so I saw this dancer, her name's Marina Lauren, very talented dancer here in California. And she posted these videos of the silk scarf with the light coming through with the tree in the background. And I'm like, that's it. That's the image. It just like hit me. I'm like, you know, and, you know, again, it's very subjective. It's like having a beautiful person dancing. Like, I'm not sure if that's exactly what the song is talking about, but it for me, it worked. It was really, you know, really the image that I wanted to project. And that really captures it. The song ends with the scarf and the light through the trees, and it just captured it so perfectly. The veil, you know, it's almost like a Rumi poem
and
or something.
Taking off the veil, you know? Because, you know, I really feel at the moment, and this is why I do what I'm doing and show up at 7 a.m. to interview because with children in the other room, is because I feel that I want to inspire others to lift that veil off, to find the light within them. Not that I believe everyone has this huge purpose that we have to pursue, but we have a light within us that we have to go back and pull off all the layers to rediscover that. And when we discover that from that place, we're able to show up and create and inspire others through our voice, through our light. And I really got all that in that song. I really felt that it was relevant for this time. It's very relevant. So
thank you so much. And that was just a beautiful thing you just said. You know, you have to have a show like Oprah or Dr. Phil. I mean, I feel so uplifted just listening to what you just said.
Thank you.
No, really, that was beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to OneSpaceLove, for the love of culture, music, lifestyle, and well-being. And may these talks inspire you to create more space in your life for doing what you love.
OneSpaceLove.